Technologies has launched a service in South Africa to ensure proper disposal of electronic equipment. This as part of global efforts to reduce waste pollution. To tell us more about this, I'm joined by Chris Buchanan, who's Dell's Client Solutions Director, to talk more about this solution. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Chris. Perhaps before we get into the details of this particular initiative, I mean, how dire is the situation when it comes to the disposal of electronic devices or related elements?
Morning, Rafira. Thanks very much. It's growing. The requirements for recycling, reusing, and disposing of your e-waste is a growing problem. It's probably around 8% of municipal landfills are now filled with e-waste. And the market for, or the demand for personal devices obviously continues to grow. I think, most citizens have 2 or 3 devices if you think about your electronic phones and your wearables and then potentially your home devices. And these have to be disposed of at a certain time, and they contain a lot of chemicals that can be harmful to the environment.
No, absolutely. Maybe talk us through those harmful chemicals and the dire consequences that the lack of sustainable disposal of these devices would have on the environment.
Sure. I mean, obviously a lot of precious metals. I think that the way you actually create silicon and circuit boards, not very environmentally friendly, or wasn't in the past. So I think the electronics industry itself has taken it upon itself to look at the whole circular economy. So all the way from the way that we manufacture our goods, the way that we package them, and then obviously recycling them once they've finished use, or the usable life cycle.
The role of government here, Chris, how important is that? Because we're seeing most recently with the KZN floods, for example, that government, not just in South Africa, but perhaps across the world, have taken the issue of climate change very lacklusterly, and it's something that needs to be focused on a lot more.
Agreed. Fortunately, the South African government's been quite good around this. So recently they've introduced legislation where a lot of our partners have come around to us. We are having to provide a lot of supporting documentation about how our products are manufactured and how they're disposed of. So we are getting ahead of the game, but I think there's a lot more that we need to do. And one of the initiatives that we've started is we realize how to dispose of products in a environmentally friendly way. And our goal, our 2030 moonshot goal, is that for every device we put into the market, we'd like to remove and recycle one completely. So we've actually offered a service, or we're offering a service to all customers, including our competitors' products, where we will actually remove them, recycle them in an environmentally friendly way. And that's something that you can just reach out to us on our website, and you can actually just arrange for us to come and collect your devices for you.
And what does that process look like, Chris, this removing and recycling process? What exactly does that entail?
Well, we'll come around and collect your products for you. You can drop them off for us as well. The recycling part is quite interesting because a lot of the components currently in these devices are very difficult to recycle. Like to try and regain these metals, these precious metals out of the devices, it's an expensive and potentially can also be harmful to the environment. So we've got some partners that we've contracted with that actually we ensure that they're in compliance with all the local emissions requirements, and everything that we can possibly recycle out of the device we do. The rest we obviously have to dispose of.
What about the resources, Chris? I mean, surely this is probably, you've just mentioned that it's very difficult to recycle a lot of the components in these devices. So no doubt that the resources need to be vast. It doesn't sound like a very cheap exercise.
Definitely not. But, it's our bit that we need to do. If we're currently at 5 to 8% of landfill, we don't want that to grow. And I think that, one of the things that our employees, we've spoken about this internally, we take quite proudly is we don't want to walk past landfill and see a whole lot of our Dell logos filling up that space. We'd rather be looking at, beautiful green flowing lawns and wonderful streams.
No, absolutely. And of course, as that climate change discussion and debate rages on, these are the kind of initiatives we need to see, not just from corporates, but we also need to see increasing initiatives from government as well. Chris, thank you very much for your time this morning. Chris Buchanan, who's the Client Solutions Director at Dell Technologies South Africa.